Okay, so now we're gonna move on to comparing fractions. Of course, we all remember these three famous symbols that we used when we used to compare numbers. Today and this week, we're going to use these three symbols to compare fractions as well. So, the first option is when I have fractions with the same denominator, and then the second option is when I have fractions with different denominators. So let's start with the first option is when I have fractions with the same denominator. As you can see, the first fraction, the denominator of it is 4, and the second fraction, its denominator is also 4. So they do have the same denominator. How do I compare these fractions in this case? How do I know which symbol to place in the middle? Of course, as you can see over here, we do have a rule, but we're going to start by drawing to understand the concept, and then we're going to use the rule. So, if I have a square, I'm going to cut it into 4 equal pieces because the total number of parts is 4. Also over here, I have a square. I'm also going to cut it into 4 equal pieces because the denominator is also 4. Now, in the first fraction, only 2 parts are shaded. In the second fraction, 3 parts are shaded. So which fraction do you think is greater? Of course, this one, because the colored parts are more than this fraction. So I place this symbol. The crocodile eats the bigger fraction, which is 3/4 in this case. Now let's do one more example on fractions with the same denominator. Let's say I have 2/5 and 4/5. I'm gonna put a rectangle. I'm also gonna draw a rectangle over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 parts. Also over here I have 5 parts. So the first, because I have 5 parts in total because the denominator, which is the total number of parts, is 5 in both fractions. So in the first fraction, the number of shaded parts is 2. 1, 2. In the second fraction, I have 4 shaded parts. 1, 2, 3, 4. Which fraction is greater? As you can notice, it's the second one because more parts are shaded. So I also place this crocodile because the crocodile eats the bigger fraction. As you can notice, we were able to derive a rule because when fractions have the same denominator, just line them up in size order using numerators. So, which one is bigger? Which fraction is bigger when they both have the same denominator? It's the fraction with the greater numerator. Now, if I told you I have these 3 fractions, how do you line them up from least to greatest? Let's see. Let's do this. From least to greatest. Which one is the least one? The number, the smallest numerator, which is 1/5, 1/5. Then 2/5, and then 5/5. This is how I ordered my fractions from least to greatest because they all have the same denominator. So the numerator, the biggest numerator because it has more shaded parts, is the greatest. Now, we're gonna move on to the second option, is when I have fractions with different denominators. Now, this option does not have a rule. All we need to do is draw to find out which fraction is greater and which fraction is smaller. So, let me give you an example. I want to compare these two fractions. How do I compare them? As you can see, the denominator in the first fraction is 4 and the denominator in the second fraction is 2. So these fractions have different denominators. I can't just go with the rule. I will have to draw them. So let's start by drawing the first fraction. I have 4 parts in total and I only shade 1. Now, for the second fraction, I have 2 parts in total and I shade 1. Which fraction do you think is bigger? Which has more shading in it? It's this one. 1/2 is bigger than 1/4. So I place this crocodile sign because the crocodile eats the bigger number. Let's see more examples. Let's say I have 2/3 and 2/4. I'm also going to draw a circle. I'm going to divide the circle into 3 total parts equal and this into 4. In this case, I'm going to color 2 from the 3 and here I'm going to color 2 from the 4. Which do you think is bigger? Which has more shading? It's this. So this one is bigger. The crocodile eats the bigger number. Now, one last example on comparing fractions with different denominators. Let's take this for instance. 2/4 and 1/5. How do I compare them? Let's draw. I'm going to draw a rectangle this time and also here a rectangle. For the first fraction, I'm going to divide the rectangle into 4 parts. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And over here, I'm going to divide the rectangle into 5 parts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 parts in total. And for the first fraction, I'm only going to shade 2. And over here, I'm going to shade 1. So which fraction do you think is bigger? Which has more shading? It's 2/4. So I place this crocodile sign because the crocodile is hungry and it eats the bigger number. I hope you enjoyed learning about comparing fractions. See you in the next video.